Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is without a doubt, after 120 plus hours of gameplay, as well as playing it on dynamic difficulty, I can say that this game is Game of the Year. With crystal clear confidence, this game is Game of the Year. It's absolutely amazing. It surpassed a lot of my expectations. It really fully immersed me. It was engaging. I loved about, I would probably say 98% of the game. The only reason I say that much is because there are a few negatives in the gameplay, and I'll get to that later, and some of it kind of kills the pacing. But for the most part, the positives outweigh the negatives. And before I do get started with the rest of the video, I do need to say that I am not going to be talking about anything of major spoilers, no in-game spoilers. You might see in open world spoilers, like, you know, going around, maybe operating this object here, or maybe having this weapon here. You know, I'm not going to really elaborate much further, but on screen you might see that. And that's the furthest I'll go in terms of spoilers, other than that one negative I do have with the game, and maybe another negative. But still, at the end of the day, I love this game. I really do. I think it's a 10 out of 10. It's one of the best video games I've ever played. So, and here we go. Let's go ahead and get started and talk about the open world first and foremost, because the open world is really what defines and word this game. Without the open world, I cannot imagine what this game would feel like. I mean, it has to be open world. This is the literal secondary part of this 3-part series, and we stopped at Midgar with the first part. And in the original, when you stopped at Midgar, you would come across this large, beautiful landscape that is the planet. You would go around from place to place, from town to town, exploring the planet and getting to know it better and interact with a lot of it. And that's what this game is about. This game is about you getting accustomed to the planet. You explore about, I would say, almost all of the regions. There are a couple that are left out, and that's obviously for part 3. You kind of have to balance out a lot of things for part 3, because this game has a lot of things going on in it, and I think it might have the most going on in it so far. And yeah, so we have the grasslands, and then we have Junon, and we have the Corel region with Costa del Sol and Golden Saucer, as well as the desert in the Corel region. And then we have the Gongaga region, and then we have the Cosmic Canyon region, and then we have the Nibelheim region. And then at that certain point, when I hit chapter 12, I was amazed, stunned even, that this world was fully interconnected. I was like, no way this all is pretty much seamless. We can explore all of this. There's tunnels leading from point A to point B. I can literally travel from Nibelheim to the grasslands. I can travel back to early game. That's insane. I literally did not know that. And I was so amazed by that. So I'm sorry if that's kind of a spoiler for you, but you might forget about it if you go and play the game if you haven't already. Because, man, I don't want to talk about spoilers like that in the story, because, well, a lot of people have not played this game yet. Some people do not have a PS5, some people have a PC, and they're waiting for the PC port, which will eventually arrive, but I want to avoid a lot of story spoilers. So if that's a spoiler for you, I really do apologize, but still, I love the open world. I really do. I love the grasslands and how it feels very much like, I guess you can compare it to, and I'm not trying to sound like, oh, really, that's the game you want to compare it to, or those are the games you want to compare it to. It definitely has that Breath of the Wild, Elden Ring, Limgrave feel to it, you know, when you walk out and you see the open world. I think that's kind of a staple for this point. Ever since Breath of the Wild, you have to have that, or really the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim. If you want to start way back in like 2011, that feeling when you emerge from a place and you're like, man, look at this beautiful world. You know, that's always been a thing with open world games. And you just take in all that beauty, you absorb it, and you're just like, man, this is going to be one heck of an adventure. And that's what it is. This journey throughout the planet is definitely one of my favorite journeys or adventures I've experienced in any video game. Going through the grasslands and eventually acquiring a Chocobo for the first time, traversing around it, getting through the wetlands and the Mithril Mine section, and then arriving in Junon, only for the adventure to truly start when we leave Junon. When you get to Costa del Sol, that's when the game really starts kicking off. Like, you're like, okay, we're really getting into the nitty-gritty of it all, right? We're really getting to the thick of everything, and that's awesome. I love that it was only 32 to 34 hours into the game by the time I was, you know, wrapping up Costa del Sol, and I was like, no way. How much more of this game is in store? How much is waiting to pretty much just drown me in more main quest, side quest, you know, like how much more of that. And the game has a lot more because there's a lot of regions, and I was stunned. It was like taking my breath away. I was like, man. But as for the open world, let me just kind of talk about this first, because the mechanics of the open world, or the features, like the transmission towers. I know a lot of people might see this as like a red flag, because Ubisoft has, when I say killed it, I do not mean they knocked it out of the park. No, I mean like they drowned it. They drowned the tower system in the waters and left it dead in water. That's when they dropped it off when they hit Far Cry 5, which, off topic, I think Far Cry 5 is pretty peak in my opinion, because that's one of the reasons why. But Rebirth here actually does something similar to Far Cry 5, where they don't necessarily drop off towers because they have towers in this game, but they do make it where towers do not unlock the map. There's this fog, I guess you can say fog of war for the map, like Far Cry 5, and the way to really uncover the map or to defog it is to explore it. So the game is really heavily encouraging that you explore the map. The transmission towers, they're not there for unlocking the map. They're there to give you intel that's actually completely optional, because you can come across everything in the world without a transmission tower. The only thing I'll say the transmission towers are important for are for the fact that they can actually give you access to side quests. And I never felt like it was very intolerable or tiresome to climb up these towers. I actually had no problem with climbing up these towers. I was completely fine with it because they were not shoved down my throat. You at least activate one tower in this game that's a part of like the beginnings, like in the grasslands. And I was fine with it, man. I was like, yeah, this is completely fine. I don't mind. The most you have to do when it comes down to it is probably fight a couple fiends and maybe perform some type of, you know, slightly complex terrain action, because you'll eventually hit different regions with towers that require different abilities or features to get across to, and it works perfectly fine. And I'm like, yeah, I don't mind it here. Like I stated, or if I have not already stated it, this open world game is not exactly groundbreaking, but it is really engaging, because, man, I felt like I had to do everything in a region before I went on to the main story. Like, I was like, okay, if I can go on to the main story, it's not going to feel exactly super satisfying. I want to get everything in this region done for the most part. Everything that I can. Even if I have to come back to it later on, I want to knock out everything that's in store for this game. I want to knock out every side quest, every side activity in the region, every single thing that I can, because that's what's important, and it will give me experience and will give me rewards, and I'll feel very rewarded, because nothing feels wasted in this game. Nothing really does, for the most part. It does not feel wasted whatsoever. And the side activities, man, can I just say, I'm not going to spoil it because this one is a big spoiler, but I'm not going to go into detail about it, but there are side quests in this game, one specifically too, that feels like it's a main scenario quest, and I was thrown off by it. And you know, if you know what I'm talking about, you know. And it literally throws in an important story character, and I'm like, what? Like, excuse me? Like, you're throwing in this character at this point in time? And this side quest completely optional? With this level of quality? That's insane. And I believe they were taking notes from The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt with its quest, and obviously it's card game, a game I cannot really, you know, not talk about. I have to talk about this, but Queen's Blood is really good. It's really addictive. Anytime I arrive in a town or a settlement, I'm just like, okay, I gotta find the Queen's Blood players. Where are they at? I gotta up my levels, man. I gotta progress through. Yes, there's a story in this. There's a story in this for Queen's Blood. I did not know there was gonna be lore for this card game, but there is. And yeah, I had a great time playing through Queen's Blood, man. I love it. There's challenges also to the side that are not a part of it. Like, it's just amazing on how much Queen's Blood just really offers you. Just like, here, fight a bunch of players around the world, as well as, you know, accomplish some challenges here and there, especially in the Corel region. And I do need to talk about the Golden Saucer, but let me talk about the Chocobos first, because that will segue into the next part of the Golden Saucer. But the Chocobos in each region are so good. I love them. I love pretty much, let me just say, Grassland Chocobos are similar to every other Chocobo in the game, except for later Chocobos have their own unique ability, right? Like, for example, Junon Chocobos can climb up walls to get you to higher vantage points. And there are the Corel Chocobos, which are just regular Grassland Chocobos. And then there's the Gongaga region Chocobos, which leap from mushroom to mushroom and scale down some branches to get from one point to another. And then there's the Cosmo Canyon Chocobos, which leap up ramps and glide around unless they hit a fan that's on the ground or in the air that will ascend them higher into the air, where you can get to really higher vantage points, if not lower vantage points, that you're trying to get to from point A to point B, you know. And then there's the Nibelheim region, which I think it's my favorite one. It's pretty much a jetpack chocobo. It's like, you know, the people who have those jetpacks, you know, on top of the water, where they're just like, you know, hovering around. That's pretty much what the chocobos are. They're hovercrafts, but in chocobo form. And I love them. They're my favorite in the region. Or out of all regions, they're great. And I wish I could just take it around and explore the entire world that way. I would not mind traversing around the entire open world on that chocobo. That would be amazing. And it's great when you can see your buddies on the chocobos too, performing the same actions you're performing. So when you get on the water, you just ascend high up in the air, like just higher up, and you can descend down as you like. You can glide down. If you're going over land, you hover a couple feet off the ground on land. But as for water, you're just soaring into the sky. It really feels like you are on a chocobo in the sky, just flocking it up. And speaking of chocobos, let me talk about the chocobo races. So yes, chocobo races at the Golden Saucer are quite great. I literally at points where I was sitting here, I'm like, okay, the next chocobo race, let's go. Okay, the next chocobo race, the next one. I kept going and going and going. I'm like, okay, I gotta take a break. I gotta take a break from chocobo races, man. I'm getting way into this for the best reasons. and I love that you can customize your chocobos too, not only in the open world but for the races, and they also will increase certain things like your speed or acceleration, or you know, the weight of your chocobo, and it really plays into it, and you get different abilities for your chocobo to perform in races. I thought it was awesome. I'm like, they did not have to add this much into it, but they did, and that's great. And speaking of the Golden Saucer with chocobo races, I have to say I love the minigames at the Golden Saucer, and we're not even done yet, because I love they teased the snowboard minigame for part 3, and they're gonna throw it into the Golden Saucer. That's gonna be really great, man. I love that tease. That was really great, because I was like, yeah, they do have snowboarding, but it's not going to be in this part, it's going to be in part 3. Makes sense. So great tease there, Square Enix. Great tease. And so as for the other minigames, I love them. You'll see them obviously here on screen, but going for the highest scores eventually when you unlock like expert level stuff was great. They're all great. They're really all great. Like I kind of hope that they add in also some newer ones in part 3. Like, I'm like, listen, I love the ones here, but I would not mind if you add a couple more. And that's not even all. There's other minigames in the Coral region too, like in Costa del Sol, that are pretty good too. And I think there's so much. There's so much. And you can also, of course, compete in battle arenas, as well as combat simulators, which are not a part of the Golden Saucer. The virtual arenas are not. They're the Chadley arenas, similar to Final Fantasy VII Remake, where you go in and fight summons, as well as complete other challenges as well. By the way, that's something I did not really talk about in the open world, was the summons. The summons in the game, you can go up to these divine totems, and I do not have footage for this because I already did all of them. This is New Game Plus footage you're watching, but I love that you're able to unlock other difficulties for them. Like, if you do not want to fight them at full might, you can fight them at a lower difficulty, and you also, I believe you made them stronger. I believe that's what you did. You just pretty much enhance your summons when you went up to these divine totems. So you knock out all 3, you have a stronger summon that you can get. And it felt satisfying to go and do, and I love that, man. I love that. And I love that I can just give everybody a summon that felt very specific for them. And there's one, I'm not going to say which one it is, but there is one that literally is like a skill check. It's like, you're not worth my time, and you know which one I'm talking about for those of you who played. That one was a great fight. I thought it was great. I'm like, yeah, that's a really good challenge. I love that. It's like, yeah, are you worthy of me? And great summon fight. And yeah, aside from that, I think I kind of want to stop talking about the open world stuff and talk about the gameplay, which I kind of already did, but combat specifically. I love the combat and the synergy abilities added onto it. It's remake combat, but enhanced. The synergy abilities are these really cool supers you can perform with specific characters. Like, only 2 characters can perform this, but as you perform it, it's just flashy, it's awesome, it's charming. I love the charm to it. Like, it really gives you a sense that these are this is actually a team. Like, this is actually a team working together to go on and just apply pain to the enemy, man. And they do it in some of the most flashy, badass ways possible. I love synergy abilities so much, and I love also in the game you do get a selection of 3 party slots. You can have up to 3 members in your party, obviously, like Remake and other games, but you have 3 party members and you have 3 party slots, so you can have different teams that can have different combinations going on. The different levels of variety you have here are pretty great. I have my main primary team, Cloud, Tifa, and Barret, my Avalanche team, and then I also have my other team, Cloud, Aerith, and Red. And then you can have your last team be ones that you later get, like Cloud, Yuffie, and Kate Sith, and it builds up variety because you can swap them here and there, and it feels great. It feels great being able to, spice up the variety, really roll the dice, see what you can really get out of these team combinations, and see what you really want to click with. It's about what you click with the most. And my Avalanche team was when I clicked with the most, aside from swapping in Aerith every now and then. Those were just mainly my favorite characters to play as, when there were other ones that I was kind of like, man, these other characters are great too. You get up to 7 party members in this game. And the other 2 are not here. They're here, but they're saved for part 3. So I'm really, really hoping we get to see definitely a lot more than part 3, which obviously we're probably going to. And speaking of all these characters, all these party members, these beloved characters that we all just have this large attachment to, let me talk about the characters. And kind of sort of the story, but not in super big detail. Let me just go back to Remake for a second. I love the drastic change. I love the character development. I love that at the beginning of the first reactor run, the bombing run for Reactor 1 in Remake, I love seeing Cloud and Barret butt heads, hate each other's guts, not give a crap about each other, talk smack to each other. Full on aggression, right? And then at the end of the game, you get the sense that they're pretty much good friends, that they have this trust of one another. They'll fight for each other. And here in Rebirth, they're the best of buds, while still keeping that smack talk, around, and as well as, they have to be a bit tough on each other, but also will be there for each other, have each other's backs when they're in a funk, or at their lowest point, they will support each other through thick and thin. And I love that, man, because there is a friendship relationship system in this game where you can bond with people, which will affect, the Skyworld dates at the Golden Saucer. And I cannot stress to you how much I love the character interactions in this game. Just seeing everybody being just willing to die for each other. This is what I'm talking about, man. I love character development like this. I love having a team I genuinely care about. I genuinely give a damn about, man. Because that's the point. That also applies to the characters in this world. There are some that are, hit or miss, or ones that you might like or dislike or love or hate, but this game paints the broader picture of, yeah, this is the game where you have to give a damn about the planet. We're gonna make you give a damn about it, because if you don't, then, your motivation is gonna be quite lacking. You need to save this planet from that silver-haired bastard Sephiroth. That silver-haired one-winged bastard. You have to save the planet from his ultimate goal. And these are the people you will be saving. These are the people that you will probably click with, or have a really nice Tinder moment with, people that you will care about. They did it right here. And I'm at the end of it, I'm like, Midgar already gave me enough of a reason to fight for the planet, but just seeing this, I'm like, yeah, I want it. Like, these people I have moments with. This game made me cry at points. This game made me cry at points. I have to mention that there, which is rare. Because, sometimes video games might make me, feel like a bit choked up or a bit teary-eyed, but this game made me freaking cry. This game made me cry at certain points in the game. I'm not going to spoil what points, but it's like, how dare you, game? How dare you make me care about these characters? How dare you make me actually feel like they're believable individuals, despite their fictional state, man? How dare you, game? I love you for it, though. So, I really want to see where they're going with it in part 3, man. The way this game ends off, I want to see where they're going with it. No spoilers, I want to see what they're going to do with it, how it's going to wrap up. I want to see these characters just grow closer and closer and closer, because so far, like if I were to take a group of people from any piece of fiction, you better believe this group is probably my top 3 favorites. These are really great characters to really to really just engage with and just get to know more about. And at the end of the day, you're like, yeah, I'm all for you, man. I'm all with you. Let's take up arms together. Let's just be the best of buds. Let's fight for each other, die for each other. Let's just go all in and save the planet from Sephiroth. I love it. I love the story too. The story, the characters, all of it just started tugging at my heartstrings. And I'm pretty sure if you are well invested in this game, well interested, engaged with it, you will feel that feeling too. You will definitely, without a doubt, feel that. I was probably not able to talk about everything in this game, obviously. There's a couple things that I can think of that I missed, but let me talk about the negatives really quickly before wrapping up this on much more of a positive note. I'd say the only negative I have about the game really majorly is Chapter 11 with the Kate section. If you know, you know. And I mean, I think everybody universally agrees that nobody wants to replay through the Kate section. It was just kind of boring and tedious, and it overstayed its welcome. I was not a big fan of it. It felt like a level that came straight out of Remake, and I'm just like, I don't hate Kate Sit, but I don't really care too much for this level. Definitely makes me hate another character even more. One that you already hate, but you just hate even more for the fact that you're in that situation. And I feel like it could have been cut, and it just could have been a time skip for the context of the situation. I just, that's the only part I really dislike about it, man. Really the only part I majorly dislike about the game. In terms of technical issues, technical problems with the game, I can say stuff on the Unreal Engine 4 can kind of be a bit of a damper. Like, sometimes the light is really bright in this game. I'm just like, man, I feel like the sunlight is just like flashing intensely in my eyes. I'm just like, jeez, Unreal Engine 4, calm down. But it's not that bad. There's some like weird motion graphical visuals too. I cannot put my finger on it, but it looks a bit weird. Aside from that, I think the game still looks stunning. There's a fidelity mode, and then there's a performance mode for sharp and smooth, depending on what you want for the game. I played on fidelity. I played on it for that because I thought the game just looked beautiful that way too. And the game overall holds up very well. And graphics don't make a game, but I just thought I could probably throw that in there. So yeah, that's Kate Sit section. Only part of the game I really just had a problem with. I was feeling tired and bored with that part of the game. And then eventually, thankfully, the game kicked right back up. I'm like, kill the pacing of it, but it's fine. And so for the most part, this is Game of the Year. It's worth full price admission. The $70 price tag. I'm like, yeah, this game, I wouldn't mind if this game was $90. Not to give you any ideas, you know, game developers, or not game developers, but corporations. Don't get any do not get any ideas. Do not keep upping the pricing ever so much, okay? But this is a game that I feel like it could have been worth more. This game is. That's how good it is. That's how great it is. So do yourself a favor. Go out and buy Final Fantasy VII Rebirth if you haven't. If you're waiting on PC, wait on PC. And so yeah, I really don't know what else I could just throw in here. I want to keep this video kind of relatively short, not like an hour in length. But I had a bit of a fear of separation anxiety when it came down to this game. I was like, I have to let go of it, but it's fine. It's fine. Eventually we all do. Like, the characters will eventually have to move on. I have to move on. So yeah, I hope to move on to other games like Elden Ring and Shadow of the Erdtree. I need to play it. I need to go ahead and just knock that one out of the park, right? I really do hope we get to see where this unknown journey with no promises continues. It's really been quite the adventure. Quite the journey, really. And so with that, wrapping it all up, as always, thank you everybody so much for watching, and I hope each and every one of you have a great and safe day. Thank you.